This video is targeted to level 3 candidates from the December 2020 exam or any previous exam who didn't make it, and is looking at making another run at level 3 because, well, you all the way here, you're going to do it again. But any advice on what strategy they should follow in retaking the exam? In every results season, I get to see a lot of results. And at level 3, the only results you get to see are those that didn't make it, because those who did don't get results. You don't get your grade breakdown. You're just told that you passed, and there's the door. See you later. So I don't actually get to see what successful results look like. I only get to see those that didn't make it. So you try to find a pattern in the results, because you need to attribute the results to something. Because if you're going to design a strategy, you can't say to everyone, you just need to try harder. That might not be the right solution. So you have to attribute the results to something. And whenever you see results, you have to attribute to one of three things. Either you're going to attribute the poor performance to the exam itself. There are some exams that are just going to be harder. You can attribute it to the knowledge of the test taker, or you can attribute it, especially for the AM portion at level 3, you can attribute it to the process of the exam. And I'll go into detail in each of these shortly. You're going to fall into one of those three categories, or maybe two of those categories, or even all three. I don't know. Without seeing the results of those who passed, it's hard to tear it apart. It's hard to look at those who didn't pass and say, aha, this is a clear footprint of 1, 2, or 3. However, there are some regularities in those that didn't make it, and I'll share that with you. Alternative investments and Book 6 topics. And by Book 6 topics, that's everything in Book 6 except for institutional investment or management of institutional investor portfolio. So it's just the last 3 topics in Book 6. Alternative investments and Book 6 did really well. Almost consistently across all the results I've seen. And again, the only results I've seen are those that didn't make it, because they're the only ones that exist. And quite consistently, derivatives, fixed income, and economics did poorly. And the 8 topics, when you look at the boxes for the 8 topics, alternative investments is first, and the Book 6 topics are last. And if we have the 50% line and the 70% line, they may look like this. You tend to get this going on, where all the other topics tend to be, a little bit, I shouldn't say that that's a 50% line. We'll draw it here. They tend to be at or below the 50% line, with derivatives, fixed income, and economics consistently being there at or below 50%. So I look at this and I say, well, okay, it could be that the derivatives, fixed income, and economic questions were just really hard this year. It could be that the candidates who didn't pass lacked a good understanding in derivatives, fixed income, and economics, because they are the harder topics at level 3. Especially fixed income is probably the most challenging topic at level 3 cognitively. Economics is only 2 readings, but it is jam-packed with stuff. And derivatives can be confusing if you don't quite understand derivatives. So if I expected, poor performance, if somebody said I performed poorly in 2 sections, which ones do you think they are? My first guess would be fixed income all the time, and probably followed by economics. Derivatives, maybe for me, they're super, super easy, but I do see a lot of people struggle in derivatives. That would be up there. It would be one of these, or even asset allocation would be one of the ones I'd throw out as most likely to do poor in if I'm attributing it to the candidate. However, there is another pattern I see as well when I look at the AM score and the PM score. And again, we'll draw the 50% line and the 70. I see the box for the PM looking like this, and I see the box for the AM looking like this. And you have that thing going on where the PM is reasonable and the AM is just really, really bad. So I think, well, if it were the knowledge of the test taker, I'd expect both boxes to be low. And if that's you, if I'm describing you, if both boxes are very, very low, and you have a lot of this going on up here where you have 4 or 5 topics at or below 50%, then yeah, it's probably the knowledge of the test taker, and there's something you have to do about the process in which you're learning. And in all fairness, some of the results that were sent to me were also sent to me with a description of what they did, how many mock exams they did, and some were saying, listen, I know I didn't put in the time, I wasn't prepared, I didn't expect that I would do well anyways. So there were some that already knew it was them. So it's just a matter of, well, you can either put in the appropriate amount of time, or if you feel you did put in the appropriate amount of time, you just don't know what went wrong, then maybe just change the process of how you learn. Typically, we learn by getting right into the detail of each reading. And as you're going through the detail, you should start to see that they build up, that the knowledge builds up into structures. And then that's where everything starts to make sense to you. You work towards the structure. Now that's a bottom-up approach. If you look in the description box, I have a link in the description box for what is referred to as a top-down approach to learning, is you will start with the structure and you will work your way down to the detail. And it's recursive as you go to each level of detail. You might find there's more level of detail than you go until you get it all, but you have it within the proper structure, as opposed to starting with the detail and saying, well, is this the structure, or is this the structure, or is this the structure, and being confused about what the higher order structure of the knowledge is. It's a top-down process. So if I'm describing you, and you can attribute, because you know yourself and your actions better than I do, if you can attribute your performance to being about you, then maybe you want to look at this approach, this more top-down approach. Well, what if it was like this? We could say, well, derivatives, fixed income, and economics, maybe they were just written harder. And if they were written harder and you didn't prepare using harder questions or a harder question bank or harder mock exams, maybe you weren't pushed enough. I don't know. Again, I can't see successful results, so I can't for sure say it's that. But what does seem logical is this, because I've also had this as feedback as well in terms of what happened. Lots of candidates that did submit the results, not all of them, but lots of them said, I didn't even finish the AM. I left 2, 3, 4 questions blank. Well, it could be that the ones they left blank were these. And if they were those, then you would get this pattern, in which case this pattern has no information about the difficulty of the question, because you didn't even do it. It has no information about the knowledge of the test taker, because you didn't even do it. It's not even a test of your knowledge if you don't do it. And it has everything to do about the process of the exam, that you were approaching the AM exam in the wrong way. So how this can happen is you start the exam and you have question 1 all the way to question 10 or 11, however many questions are on, and alternative investments appears early, and all the book 6 topics appear early. Some of the wealth management questions appear, and then derivatives, fixed income, and economics appeared near the end. And if you didn't finish, well, guess what? It's going to produce results that look like that because you didn't even write them. So I can't say anything about their difficulty level or about your knowledge if I can't even test it because you didn't write them. So it could just be an artifact of the process. And when we use the term artifact, what we mean by that is if you're doing any kind of scientific observation or experimentation, an artifact is an outcome that is not intended by the observation or the experiment. Not answering the questions, having poor performance here is an artifact and not a consequence. In other words, this is not evidence of anything. This is not evidence of a hard question. It's not evidence of lack of knowledge. So we can't really read anything into that. So if you have this sort of pattern going on where you scored low on the AM, but you scored reasonably well on the PM, and you see this, I can't really say, well, the knowledge of the test taker is poor. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if the question on the exam was written hard. I'd have to know whether you wrote it or not. Don't tell me. It's okay to say I didn't answer 2 questions, but don't tell me what questions you didn't answer. Don't make any comments in the comment section either, saying, yeah, you're right, derivatives and fixed income were at the end. of the exam, because now you're telling me something about the structure of the exam and you can't do that. Just say nothing. Answer it yourself. You know, if they were near the end, or if you didn't answer any questions in the AM on derivatives, fixed income, or economics, well, then answer that for yourself, but don't tell me. So if that's the case, then it's not necessarily that we have to change the process by which you're learning the information. We just have to get you working on harder questions. We just have to push you a little bit harder in the types of questions that you're answering. Within the readings, the end of chapter questions tend to mostly be either on the easy or to the medium side. There are very few that are hard. In the blue box examples throughout the readings, they tend to be mostly medium with a few that are hard. The ones that are hard, if you're a subscriber to my site, you'll know that I do walk through quite a few of the blue box examples within the video themselves, and the really hard ones I make a separate video on as well, and I put in that section so that there's a separate video of a walkthrough of just that particular question. I wouldn't shy away from the hard questions. Some do say, look at it and say, well, okay, that's a super hard one. That's not gonna, the exam's not gonna be like that. Well, maybe it is. Maybe there are going to be, every year there's always chatter about, oh, that fixed income question was brutal, or this one was brutal. No detail, just sort of an expression of that one was really tough, and there's a general consensus about it. Every year on the exam, there's going to be one or two questions where you go, whoa, where did that come from? That was brutal. So it's important that you do push yourself. It's important that you work out with heavy weight and with questions that are difficult. What's the point of going through a question bank where the questions are so easy that you're scoring 90 or 100% all the time? Or doing a mock exam where you're scoring 90% on, where the questions are just right across home plate for you. Super easy, here you go. I don't know that there's any value in taking up time to answer questions that do little more than make you feel good about yourself, but in an illusionary way. What's the point of spending 3 hours on a mock exam and after you're finished knowing nothing more than when you began? It added nothing to your knowledge. All it did was stroke your ego. Hey, listen, if you want to feel good about yourself, that's what your parents are for, right? You don't want that in your mock exam. You don't want that in your question bank. So the solution there is seek out harder questions. What if it's the process? You just didn't have the time to get to those questions. That's fixable. That's really fixable. These are not essay questions. And I think calling it the essay exam portion of the exam is misleading, because you get in your head it's an essay. And if you are self-study, you never have a guide along the way that explains that essay's not the right word here. They're not essays. You're not writing sentences and paragraphs. You're already wrong. Your goal is not to teach the grader what the answer is. Your goal is to tell the grader what the answer is. You don't have to teach it. You just have to tell it. That's a bullet point, 2 bullet points, 3 tops. If you go on to 4 bullet points, you're probably writing too much. So you just need better training in terms of, well, it's not essay, it's structured response. What does that mean? Well, look at the word. Is it list, determine and justify, determine and explain, calculate? Those all have a different structure to the answer, and no answer is 300 words long or 200 words long or even 100 words long. If you're writing 100 words in an answer, you're probably way off base. They are short bullet points. You're telling the answer, period. You're not teaching it. So you just need more practice in structuring your answer to get to the point, to say just what you need to do to answer the question, and every keyword has a particular structure associated with it. So if it's you, try a top-down approach. If it's not you and it's something to do with the exam, make sure you practice with harder questions, or make sure you work with the process of the exam. Let's hop on the next screen and we'll look at what we have to offer in terms of that. Okay, our level 3 mock exams, at level 3, it's the only level where we actually separate our mock exams from a full package where you can actually buy them separately. They go on first. They go on first. They go on sale March 1st. So starting March 1st, they'll be available, and we're going to have 3 prices. We'll have a $30 option, a $100 option, and a $200 option, and all our prices are Canadian. So US, that would be 23 US. 100 is roughly about 79 US given the exchange rate, and this is about 158 US given the exchange rate. I'll tell you what our mock exams include first, and then I'll explain what each of these are. We have 2 past CFAI exams on the site from 2017, 2018. These are 180 points each. We're not going to modify the point system on those. But they are updated to 2021 where it's needed. Some of the questions are completely relevant to 2021 content. Others are not. And where they are not, we have modified either the exhibit or the question or what is being asked to make it consistent with 2021. However, we are not going to modify any of the questions in terms of the length. We're not going to start chopping it apart. It is what it is. We have 4 AM exams that I've written. We've made them 145 points each. The real exam is 135. And I said, well, let's go to 145. Let's go just a little bit more, make them just a little bit longer, so that if you are working on answer management and by default time management, let's try to do more in the same amount of time. Let's get 145 points into the same time frame as you're going to have for 135. If you train at that for 4 exams, then suddenly 135 gives you lots of breathing room. And we have 5 PM exams, 45 questions on each one. Each question on the real exam is 3 points, so that's 135 points on the PM exam. All online, all the exams, all of them are online, and they are partially self-grading. The PM exams are fully self-grading. The AM exams are partially self-grading. I'll show you the interface for one of the exams and the questions in a second, and you're going to see why it's easy to get partially self-grading going on. But they will partially self-grade, so it's not as if you have to grade it yourself from beginning to end. What can be graded will be graded. And then there's video walkthroughs of every single question on the past 2 CFAI exams and on the 4 AM exams. Not the PMs. I don't do walkthroughs of the PMs. And the video will do 2 things. It will explain the answer, because I do write mine a little bit hard, and I'll explain down here, and that is by design. I make them hard on purpose. So there's answer explanation, which helps to develop your understanding even better. And answer structure explanation by keyword. So I say we're answering a question where the keyword is select. Here's how you answer select. Here's how you answer list. Here's how you answer calculate. If it's justify and determine, it looks like this, which is different than justify and explain, which looks like this. So I give you the structure of the answer, which is a critical component. That begins to address the characteristic of the process of the exam. So we can attribute your performance in the exam to the process that you followed. This will help fix that process. And the harder questions will begin to address the characteristic of the test itself. Look, I can write an easy exam. That's not hard to do. What's the point? What's the point of spending 2.5 hours on something that at the end only makes you feel good, but you've learned nothing more than when you started? You know nothing more than when you began that exam. What would be the point of going through a process that does not add, but only brings you sideways, right? The real thing is there to test you. This should be there to test you at a higher level, to push you. So let's give you a longer exam, slightly longer than you would have, and let's make them harder. Let's push you on this one, so when you get to the real thing, it's more of a lightweight. By the way, this is a critical part for developing answer management. We're not going to talk about time management. Time management is an outcome of answer management. You won't have to manage your time if you manage your answers. Time will take care of itself. So we're going to work on developing answer management skills, not necessarily, okay, you've got 17 minutes, watch the clock, after that move on. No, you got 17 minutes. That tells you what the structure of your answer should be. It shouldn't be something that takes half an hour to do, right? We also have 64 hours of drop-in grading sessions. That's 16 hours per exam because we have 4 AM exams. As I said, they're partially self-grading. You should be able to grade the rest. We have a very detailed grading key. And in the video explanation, I also explain how to award marks. But maybe you've answered in a different way and you think, well, what about my answer? How would I get marks for this? This is where you show up to one of these sessions. And there are 8 2-hour sessions per exam, so 16 hours per exam, all at different times of the day during the week and all on different days to appeal to all the different time zones in the world. There's a grader on the other end, and it is live. It's not recorded. These are live sessions with the other grader on the other end. And there's a chat window. You can type in your question, and and the grader is going to walk through the whole exam, beginning to end, question by question. And you can ask your question at certain intervals. You know, if you're on question 5 and that's your question, go ahead and the grader will answer as many as they possibly can within that window. If these are really popular, I'll have the grader extend the window from 2 hours each session to 3 hours each session, or we'll add more sessions. We don't know. Honestly, we don't know how popular these are going to be. Have no idea. But we're going to put them out. We're going to commit to these 64 hours, and let's see what happens. This is included if you have the full level 3 package, by the way. This is all included. You get all of these. You don't have to worry about where to buy them. Let's address the fact that I write these questions hard. And again, that is by design. It's on purpose, because my thinking is if I'm going to train you for a fight, I'm certainly going to train you at a level higher than the fight you're going to have. They're going to be hard. So the questions are about 30% medium. About 30% of the questions you're going to get are medium, and about 70% are hard. Because I could write a question that comes closer to the exam and say, well, there may be 1 or 2 questions that are going to be hard, but which ones am I going to make hard? What if I'm wrong? What if I make fixed income hard, but it's not fixed income that's hard? It is a personal wealth or private wealth management question that's really hard. So rather than guess, I just say, look, I'm going to make them all hard. So let's look at the distribution of grades on our mock exams, because for the December window, they were all online. So we have results online, and this light line here, this light kind of peach colored line, that's the distribution of the grades. Notice that it's very skewed to the right, which means a few people did really well, but most of the people are clustered in around the average of 58. That average of 58 is a Windsorized average, by the way. It's not a raw average. We Windsorize the data set, which you have to do if you're going to transform it, if you're going to normalize it. Well, this is the average because of the way I write the exam. But what would it be if it were written closer to the real exam? Well, I don't know, right? You don't know what the real exam is going to be, but we do know what the distribution of the scores on the real exam are going to be. The distribution is going to be normal. That we know. We just don't know what it's going to be. Like, we wouldn't know what the questions are, but we know what the distribution will look like. So we'll Windsorize our data set, which means we take the bottom 5% and the top 5% of scores, and we make them all equal to whatever percentile that was. Reason we do that is we lock exam 2. Until you're done exam 1, you can't unlock exam 2. Well, some people just will put in any old scores they want to unlock exam 2. Sometimes it's just really, they'll just put in zeros all the way down just to move on, or they'll put in perfect scores all the way down to move on. So that's why we take the top and the bottom and we truncate them that way to sort of get rid of those outliers. Then we're left with this type of distribution, and we say, well, how do we transform this distribution to look like this distribution? And we apply a transformation, and look what happens when you apply the transformation. All the scores move up, and the higher the score, the less they move up. For those of you who've been through your undergrad, you've heard the expression grading on a curve. That's exactly what this is. It's grading on a curve. What curve? The normal curve. We're going to transform this distribution into a normal distribution, which we know the actual results will be normally distributed So let's transform ours to a normal distribution, see what we get. And if we look at the mean, the 58 would add 14 to bring it to a 72, which is about right. So normalized, our average is about 72 across the exams, from a 58 Windsorized, which is about a 54% unwindsorized, or just raw data set. So, we do have the skill set here to know how to transform that into a normal distribution to get a comparable score. So we know that at 72, we're probably very close in line with what the real exam would be after we adjust for its difficulty level. So the difficulty level is capturing something. Great. Work with those hard questions. That's the point of it, right? Now let me talk about these numbers here, the 30, the 100, and the 200, and then we'll look at our interface. And we'll start with 30. 30, you get the 2 past CFAI exams. You get 1 AM exam, 1 PM exam. Again, all line, partially self-grading. All the video walkthroughs with them as well. 30 Canadian or 23 US dollars. For $100, you get everything. And then for 200, you get everything plus access to the 64 hours drop-in grading. This is limited, by the way. We only have 65 of those that we're going to do outside of a subscription. Once those 65 are done, that's it. So we have limited capacity on that. Now, you may be thinking, well, $23, I mean, what do you get for $23? If it's that cheap, it can't be that good. Well, I have 2 counter arguments to that. One is more philosophical, one is practical. A practical counter argument, go to Reddit. Type in my name. Reddit is the single largest community, or the subreddit for the CFA community, is the single largest online community in one place. And not by a little, by a long shot. There is another one, I think there's 2 or 3 more forums out there, but they're very small compared to what Reddit is. So if you're going to go anywhere, you would go to Reddit. We don't advertise, so you're not going to see any of our advertisements on there. We've never once spent a penny in advertising, because if we do advertise, well, you got to pay for it. Somewhere along the lines, you got to pay for it, and well, it's a decision we made not to do. And it's all user-generated content. So if you want to know what people think about us, type in our name. In fact, if you want to know what people think about any provider, not just me, any provider, type in their name. It's all there. It's all user-generated. If you can't find the answer you want, ask your own question. Ask a question. I'm thinking of using Dr. Meldrum's mock exams for level 3. What has been people's experience? And you'll get answers from people who have actually used them. I don't know that there's more powerful a way of getting information than just asking other people who have used it, asking other users. I can tell you anything I want to tell you. Any provider can tell you anything they want to tell you. I've got the best stuff out there. No one's better than mine. I can say anything I want. But I can't control what other people say. That's the beautiful thing about Reddit. And we have a policy of not contributing online at all. There are only 2 instances in which we will contribute online. One is AMA, which is Ask Me Anything. We've hosted a number of AMAs where yes, we obviously have to contribute. And the only other time, and we've only done it twice, is where somebody is saying something online that is completely untrue. Then we step in. But if somebody's giving an opinion, I hate this guy, well, okay, you hate us. It's not a fact, it's an opinion, and we're not going to say you're wrong. You hate us, you hate us. But if you have a list of things, I don't like this company because of all these things, if it's patently false, we then step in. So what you're going to get on Reddit is unfiltered comments about our product and our service. I think that's the best form of research. The second argument is philosophical. Yeah, $23 is a low price, but that's what it costs us to deliver. And we've followed a cost model from day one. Teaching is a high form of public service. Nobody says, I want to make a lot of money in life. I'm going into teaching. Nobody goes into teaching to get rich. Maybe you do, but nobody goes into teaching to get rich. It's a form of public service. If you go to any university, law school, engineering, medical school, dental school, business school, there are many professors in there that are worth a lot more in the real world than they are on campus. They're on campus because they have a belief in public service, that education is a form of public service. Not private service, but public service. And a philosophy that guides my thinking in terms of how I price things out in this space, because I am an educator. First and foremost, I'm an educator. And there's a proverb. And yes, it's from the Bible. There's a proverb. And I'm not religious in any way. However, I do think that people shortchange themselves when they don't read religious texts, because it's full of beautiful poetic verses. And it's written like all good poetry. It does not impose upon you a single interpretation, but it gives you the language in which you extract your own meaning from it. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to it. It's okay to read religious texts and not be religious. It's just you can read them for the beauty that they're written in. But there's one proverb, I think, that sums up public service quite well. Grant me neither riches nor poverty, but feed me of the food that is my portion. I think speaks to public service. When I see providers that are charging, and I've seen this, $100 for one AM exam. Not even online, it's on paper, and not even modified for computer-based testing at all. I think of that expression, grant me neither riches nor poverty, and I say, that is called granting me riches. Grant me riches. That's their proverb. Grant me riches. Because I know what it costs to deliver this. I know what it costs. And it doesn't cost that. That's not an educator that believes that education is public service. That's somebody who believes that selling you something is private service. You know what really used to upset me are these for-profit schools that used to advertise late at night, like ITT Tech. You remember those? They're all gone now. But they preyed upon people's desires for a better life, and sometimes they preyed upon their desperation for a better life by showing this commercial of this a person who went to ITT Tech and is now enjoying this middle-class life, and they show shots of them in the house and the kitchen preparing a meal with the family, all well-dressed, and the kitchen done up really nice, and showed them on the weekends enjoying different amenities, and it was all a lie. It was all a lie. It was about extracting money out of these candidates, about making them take these $30,000 student loans per year and delivering them almost nothing. And no one got a job anywhere near what they were promised, with many of them never ever getting a job ever and having to pay back all of that student loan. That upset me. It upsets me when I see people using the noble profession of education and turning it into nothing but self-enrichment. These do not cost $100 to do for one exam. They simply don't cost that much to produce. You should not be paying that much. This is why we have the $30 option. Okay? Try it. Try it. If you think better in US dollars, it's $23. Try it. You're going to get 2 past CFA exams, 1 AM exam, 1 PM exam. Judge for yourself. Go on to Reddit. Judge for yourself. This is about public service, but there is a cost to doing this. Feed me of the food that is my portion. Cover my costs. See, that's a beautiful thing about poetry, is you bring the meaning to it. It does not impose it upon you. That's the way I read that. Let's have a look at our interface. All right, so when you get to our site, you click on pricing and subscriptions, you click on level 3, you'll get to this page. You'll see our packages across the top. If you scroll down, you will see this. This will be up as of March 1st. You'll be able to buy these. There's the $30 option. You'll get exam 1 You'll also get the past 2 CFAI exams in there, even though it just says exam 1. You're actually getting 3 AM exams. They're all done online. There's the $100 package. This is Canadian again, and that's all of the exams except the drop-in grading sessions. This also includes the drop-in grading sessions. We are only going to sell 65 of these because our full package subscribers get them included, and we don't know what to expect. So we're going to start off with a limited number, and if the demand is reasonable, then we'll open up more because we'll have capacity. If we're way overwhelmed, we're going to have to open up more sessions, and it's better to be safe than sorry and disappoint other people. So that's why we're capping it at 65 on this one. So that'll be available on March 1st. Let's look at the exam now. This is exam 1 AM session. We're on question 1, and you'll notice that the question scrolls in a separate window. All of the answers are accordion style answers. You just click on the question that you want to answer, and the drop down window will appear. So let's look at 1A. Notice that when you move your mouse over underweight or overweight, it highlights. So if you need it to be overweight, you just click on overweight, and you'll click in here and you'll type in your response. For the response, we have shut down autocorrect on your browser. We've done that with our code because what we don't want is your browser auto-correcting your words for you, because in the real exam it will not do that. Spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, they'll all be there. There'll be no autocorrect. So you should be used to that. So we're working with it now that you're not going to get that. Even my G for Grammarly here, notice it's not going to work. So we've shut it down for you so you don't have to worry about turning off your autocorrect in your window. Now because this is overweight, and you can select this, this will partially grade. Here's the beautiful thing. Let's say it was underweight. You can re-click underweight if you want. Like you can click from side to side. Like it's not just one click and then you're locked into it. You can change your mind. But once you hit submit, the system will see that you chose overweight. If you're wrong, it crosses everything out in this box and assigns 0. That's it. That's what we mean by partially self-grading. If you're right on this one, it'll already award 1 mark for this question, and then you just have to assess how much there was within this particular box. If there's not enough room to write in here, you can increase the size of this window. You can drag it down or drag it up. It's got a really small font right now. That's only because I've got a very, very large screen, and I've moved this over into a smaller screen so it looks all scrunched up. It's actually bigger text than this. You can change the size of the font on your web browser. You know that. And that's it. When you're done with that, you can click on any question, and again, you just click on 6A. Notice that there is no choice to make here. It's just an answer. Here, we'd have to take domestic equity or foreign equity, depending on what we're doing, and this is a calculation. The video will explain calculation. This is important now. If you know the answer, if you calculate it and the answer is 56, guess what? Type in 56. That's all you have to do. If you're right, you get full marks. You don't get any marks for the formula. You don't have to type in a formula. I know there's been a lot of questions saying, well, what do we do with a formula? You don't have to type in the formula. If the answer is 56 and you're sure the answer is 56, type in 56. It's just you get no part marks. If it's not 56, you type in bracket 100 minus something, bracket slash whatever you're dividing by equals 56. Super easy. The video walkthroughs will show you how to do all of that. And that's the interface. And again, this thing scrolls separately. And then this one, you have a highlighter here. So if you need to highlight certain things, you can just go ahead, click on your highlighter and say, looking for a dollar neutral trade. You got to determine and calculate. Maybe you want to highlight this. There's your highlighter at the top, or you could just get rid of all the highlighting altogether. And you can turn your highlighter off in case you want to do something else. But if there's an important point, it's saying here long positions offset by short positions, maybe you want to highlight that. And you'll have that feature in the exam as well, the ability to highlight, and if you highlight wrong, just trash it. That's all. And again, you can change any of these anytime you want. That's it.